The Discovery. The archival research vessel Luminous Inquiry drifted silently through the debris field of what had once been a thriving outpost. Commander Viridian, a tall saurian with scales that shimmered between green and blue in the dim light of the bridge, watched the holographic display with 6 eyes narrowed in concentration. Preliminary scans confirm the ruins are approximately 40,000 standard cycles old, reported Science Officer Nixel, her translucent tentacles gently manipulating the control interface. The architecture and material composition matched known human construction methods. Viridian's throat sac expanded slightly in surprise. Humans? This far into the Sagittarius arm? Our records indicated they never ventured beyond Orion. Apparently our records are incomplete, Nixel replied, her voice betraying the academic excitement that made her one of the most respected xenorchaeologists in the collective. This discovery could rewrite our understanding of pre-collapse galactic history. The collective, an alliance of 17 sapient species, had long been fascinated by humans, a species known only through fragmentary records and artifacts. Humanity had vanished suddenly, their homeworld Earth reduced to an uninhabitable wasteland, in an event known as the Collapse. The cause remained one of the greatest mysteries in galactic archaeology. Deploy the survey drones, Viridian ordered. I want a complete topographical map before we send in the ground team. 6 hours later, Viridian led a team of 8 specialists through the ghostly corridors of the abandoned human outpost. Their environmental suits glowed with soft blue light, the illuminating walls covered in a script that had been identified as English, one of the dominant human languages before the collapse. The structural integrity is remarkable, noted engineer Corva, a stocky lithoid whose rocky exterior concealed one of the finest analytical minds in the expedition. Even after 40 millennia, the primary systems appear largely intact. Human engineering was impressive. Archaeologist Chen, a furred vulpine with enhanced olfactory sensors, moved ahead of the group. Commander, I'm detecting faint power signatures from the central chamber. Something is still active after all this time. The team moved cautiously toward the heart of the facility. The corridor opened into a vast circular room dominated by a central console. Unlike the rest of the outpost, this room showed signs of deliberate preservation. Protective barriers, redundant power systems, and data storage units designed to last for epochs. Incredible, whispered Nixel. This chamber was specifically designed to endure for tens of thousands of years. The humans wanted something found. Zhen approached the central console, which flickered to life at his proximity. Some kind of activation protocol, he muttered, adjusting his translator to decipher the symbols flashing across the ancient screen. Suddenly, the room illuminated fully. Holographic projectors embedded in the walls activated, displaying star charts, mathematical formulas, and sequences of code that scrolled too rapidly to follow. In the center of the room, above the console, a 3-dimensional projection of a human figure appeared. The figure, a female human with dark skin and close-cropped hair, wearing what appeared to be a military uniform, gazed out at them with an expression that transcended both species and time. Urgency. This is Admiral Helena Chen of the Earth Defense Force. The hologram spoke, the outpost systems automatically translating into the modern galactic standard. If you are viewing this message, then our worst fears have been realized. Earth is gone. Humanity may be extinct, but you need to know what happened. You need to understand the threat. The team stood transfixed as Admiral Chen's hologram continued, explaining how humanity had encountered something in the depths of space, something ancient and implacable that had pursued them across the stars. We called them the Void. Chen's voice echoed through the chamber. They exist partially outside our reality. They consume worlds, civilizations, even light itself. We fought them for 3 centuries, but they cannot be reasoned with or defeated through conventional means. The hologram shifted, showing terrifying glimpses of shadowy entities that seemed to bend and distort the very fabric of space around them. The creatures defied description. Part energy, part matter, entirely alien. We've established outposts like this one throughout the galaxy, Chen continued, containing our knowledge, our history, and our warnings. The void is patient. They may be dormant now, but they will return. If you found this facility, you must heed our final message. The hologram paused, Chen's expression growing even more grave. Run. Take what knowledge you can and flee this sector. The void is drawn to advanced technology, to civilizations that reach beyond their own systems. That's why we've left our knowledge scattered and hidden. If assembled in one place, it would act as a beacon. As the message played, Zhen noticed something disturbing on his instruments. Commander, I'm detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the facility. They're increasing in frequency. Is it the holographic system? Viridian asked, mandibles clicking nervously. No, Corva interjected, checking her own readings. It's more like space-time distortions, similar to what happens near a singularity, but localized and growing. The hologram of Admiral Chen seemed to look directly at them. If you're experiencing temporal anomalies, they've already detected the activation of this facility. You don't have much time. The defense systems will engage shortly to destroy this outpost and prevent the void from tracking it. You have approximately 30 minutes to evacuate. Defense systems. Viridian's scales paled. Nixel, download whatever data you can. Everyone else, back to the shuttle. Now. As the team hurried to preserve what knowledge they could, Nixel interfaced directly with the ancient human database. Streams of information flowed into their storage systems: human history, scientific achievements, cultural records, and technological blueprints. But most importantly, information about the void. Commander, Nixel called out, her voice tight with concern. According to these files, the void doesn't just destroy civilizations. It erases them from history. It alters reality so that they never existed at all. Viridian froze. How is that possible? Unknown, but it explains the contradictions in our historical records. The gaps. Nixel disconnected from the system. We need to go. Now. As they raced back through the corridors, the outpost around them began to change. Walls flickered between solid and transparent. Gravity fluctuated wildly. Space itself seemed to bend and fold around them. They'd reached their shuttle just as the distortions intensified. Through the viewport, they watched in horror as portions of the human outpost began to disappear, not collapse or explode, but simply cease to exist, as if being selectively erased from reality itself. The self-destruct sequence, Corva said grimly, designed not just to destroy the facility, but to remove it from space-time completely. As their shuttle accelerated away from the doomed outpost, Viridian turned to Nixel. What exactly did we download? What did the humans leave behind? Nixel's normally composed features were troubled. Everything, Commander. Their history, their science, their warnings, and something else. Something they called Project Firewall. I believe it was their last hope against the void. Behind them, the human outpost vanished in a silent flash of light that bent strangely around its edges, leaving nothing but empty space where 40 millennia of history had once stood. Aboard the luminous inquiry, the team gathered in the analysis chamber. The downloaded human data had been isolated on a secure system, quarantined from the ship's main computer as a precaution. Begin analysis, Viridian ordered. I want to know everything the humans knew about these void entities. As holographic displays flickered to life around them, projecting human knowledge not seen in 40,000 years, none of them noticed the subtle distortion in the ship's sensors or the strange shadow that seemed to follow their course through the stars. In the darkness between worlds, something ancient stirred from its long dormancy, something that remembered humanity all too well. And it was hungry again. The legacy. 3 days after fleeing the self-destructing human outpost, the crew of the luminous inquiry found themselves in an increasingly precarious situation. The ship's systems had begun experiencing inexplicable malfunctions, navigation errors, power fluctuations, and communications interference that isolated them from the rest of the collective fleet. In the ship's laboratory, Nixel worked feverishly to decrypt the vast archive of human knowledge they had salvaged. The more she uncovered, the more her tentacles trembled with a mixture of awe and terror. "Commander," she called as Viridian entered the lab. "I believe I understand now why the humans were so feared in the ancient records." Viridian approached the central display, where fragments of human history played out in holographic detail. "Explain." "The humans weren't just another spacefaring species," Nixel said, manipulating the controls to show technical schematics that defied conventional understanding. They had mastered technologies that the collective still considers theoretical. Quantum entanglement communication, consciousness transfer, matter-energy conversion on a planetary scale. How is that possible? Viridian's scales shifted to a deep blue of confusion. If humans were so advanced, how could they have been defeated? Nixel's eyes dimmed. Because the void is even more ancient and powerful. According to these records, the void entities exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They don't just consume matter and energy. They consume possibility itself. Engineer Corva joined them, her crystalline form glittering under the laboratory lights. That would explain the temporal anomalies we're experiencing. "Commander, I've analyzed the ship's sensor logs. Something is following us through subspace. Has been since we left the outpost." Viridian's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in Saurian physiology. "Are you saying we've awakened one of these void entities?" "Not exactly," came a new voice. The team turned to see archaeologist Chen entering the laboratory, carrying what appeared to be a small metal cube recovered from the human outpost. "I think it was already awake. We just got its attention." The cube in Chen's paws pulsed with faint blue light. As he set it on the laboratory table, it projected a holographic interface similar to the one they had seen in the human facility. "This is a quantum data core," Chen explained. "I've been studying it separately from the main archive. It contains a message specifically designed to activate if void activity is detected nearby." The hologram coalesced into the form of Admiral Chen once more, though this projection seemed more advanced, almost interactive. "Greetings," the human hologram said, looking directly at them. "If this message has activated, then you are being hunted. The void has detected your possession of human knowledge and has begun tracking your quantum signature." Viridian stepped forward. "How is this possible? This message was recorded 40,000 years ago." The hologram smiled sadly. "Time works differently for the void. And for us toward the end. What I'm about to tell you was our most closely guarded secret, the real reason the void sought our extinction." The laboratory darkened as new images appeared, humans manipulating the very fabric of reality, creating technologies that seemed more like magic than science. In our final centuries, humanity achieved what we called transcendence, the ability to exist simultaneously across multiple timelines and realities. We became something new, something that threatened the void's dominion over the higher dimensions. The implications stunned the alien researchers into silence. What Chen was describing wasn't just advanced technology. It was evolution beyond physical form. "The void couldn't tolerate our ascension," Chen continued. "They launched a war across all possible timelines, attempting to erase us from existence completely. We fought back with everything we had, but eventually realized we couldn't win conventionally." The hologram gestured, and a complex schematic appeared. A vast network of facilities, technologies and protocols spanning the galaxy. "This is Project Firewall, our final contingency. We seeded the galaxy with fragments of our consciousness, our technology, and our knowledge, disguised as ruins and artifacts. Each piece, harmless on its own, but together." Chen's expression hardened. "Together, they form a weapon capable of sealing the void away permanently." Corva studied the schematic with growing understanding. "It's a dimensional barrier, designed to prevent incursion from higher dimensions into our reality." "Precisely," Chen nodded. But it requires activation from multiple points simultaneously by species who choose to stand against the void. We couldn't complete it ourselves. The void was watching us too closely. So we left the pieces for others to find, hoping that someday someone would understand and finish what we started. Viridian's scales shifted to the deep red of decision. Are you suggesting that we, a single research vessel, are supposed to activate this firewall? Chen's hologram shook her head. No, you're supposed to survive long enough to warn the collective. The piece you've recovered is just one node in the network. There are others, scattered across 17 key systems. The number sent a shock through the alien researchers. 17, exactly matching the number of species in the collective. This couldn't be coincidence. The void is coming for your ship, Chen continued urgently. It will be here within hours. But I can help you escape. The cube on the table began to transform, unfolding like a mechanical flower to reveal a crystalline core pulsing with energy. This is a temporal displacement drive, one of our last technologies. It will move your ship slightly out of phase with normal spacetime, making you invisible to the void, but only for a short period. You must use this time to reach your homeworld and warn them. Jen looked up from the device, his fur standing on end. The phase shift would explain how human technology remained hidden for so long. They didn't just bury their legacy, they shifted it partially outside our reality. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. On the laboratory's monitors, space itself seemed to darken around the luminous inquiry, stars disappearing one by one, as if being swallowed by an invisible mouth. It's here, Nixel whispered. The hologram of Admiral Chen looked at each of them in turn. Now you understand why our final message was simply run. Not out of cowardice, but strategy. Run, gather your strength, unite your collective. Finish what we started. Viridian turned to Corva. Can you interface this human technology with our systems? The engineer's crystalline hands were already moving over the temporal drive. Theoretically, yes. But Commander, this goes against all known physics. If it fails, we're dead anyway. Viridian cut in. Do it. As Corva worked frantically to integrate the human device, the darkness outside grew deeper. The ship's hull groaned under forces it was never designed to withstand. Reality itself seemed to bend around them. 30 seconds to full manifestation of the void entity, reported the ship's AI, its voice distorting oddly. Hull integrity compromising. Dimensional breach imminent. Corva made the final connection. The temporal drive pulsed brightly, sending waves of blue-white energy coursing through the ship's systems. Now or never, she said grimly. Viridian placed his scaled hand atop the device. Activate. The universe seemed to shudder around them. Through the viewports, they could see the stars blur and shift, colors changing to frequencies never before witnessed by any of their species. The darkness pursuing them screamed, a sound that existed not in air, but in the mind, a furious howl of thwarted hunger. When reality stabilized, the luminous inquiry was elsewhere, or rather, elsewhen, still in the same region of space, but slightly out of phase with normal reality. Status report, Viridian demanded, his voice shaky. Ship intact, Corva reported, checking systems. Temporal displacement successful. According to these readings, we're adjacent to normal spacetime. The void can't detect us, but we have less than 48 hours before the effect collapses. The hologram of Admiral Chen smiled grimly. Enough time to reach your nearest outpost if you hurry. When you re-enter normal space, the void will sense you again. Your only hope is to reach the collective and unite them around Project Firewall. Nixel looked up from her analysis of the human data archive. There's more. According to these records, the void has been responsible for eliminating countless civilizations throughout galactic history. The cycle repeats. Species rise, achieve interstellar travel, then vanish mysteriously. The humans were the first to understand what was happening and fight back. And now that responsibility falls to us, Viridian said quietly. Chen's hologram nodded. Humanity may be gone from the physical universe, but our legacy remains. We fought the void to a standstill, scattered ourselves across the stars, and left behind the tools for those who would come after us. The projection began to fade, its power source finally depleting after 40 millennia of waiting. Remember, Chen's voice echoed as her image dissolved. You're not just running from something. You're running toward humanity's last hope. Our final act was to give the future a fighting chance. As the hologram vanished completely, Viridian turned to his crew. In their eyes, whether compound, mammalian, or crystalline, he saw the same determination that must have driven the last humans 40,000 years before. Set course for collective space, he ordered. Maximum speed. We have 48 hours to prepare the galaxy for war. As the luminous inquiry accelerated through its distorted pocket of reality, the human temporal drive pulsed steadily at the heart of the ship. Within its crystalline matrix, patterns swirled that looked remarkably like DNA, but were in fact something far more complex, the encoded consciousness of the humans who had created it. The void had not destroyed humanity entirely. It had merely forced them to evolve into something new, something that existed beyond physical form, patiently waiting across 40 millennia for allies to finish the battle they had begun. In the darkness between the stars, the last legacy of humanity sped toward an uncertain future, carrying a warning as old as civilization itself. Run, but when you can run no further, stand and fight. The fate of all reality depended on it. The council VLIVs I collect heat ignenododiloeg. They are partai choristi. I collect TPERSBCTIVs. Ways of pure CIVing reality. Each species says the UNIVRC differentially. Each pure speak tenere. Strange things the whole. And humans? What do we offer? In innovation through CA chaos, where others see disorder, you find connections. Where others accept limitations, you imagine alternatives. It is both your greatest strength and your greatest danger. Ilara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. The library vanished, replaced by visions of possible futures, humanity spreading through the galaxy, in some timelines bringing cooperation and discovery, in others conflict and destruction. The council airs your potential. They send you to me as assessment, not tribute. They wish to gain out if humans will enhance or 318 the cosmic balance. The revelation sent a chill through Ilara. So this trial is really about judging humanity's place in the galaxy. All trials serve multiple purposes. The Council maintains order. I maintain balance. Sometimes these devoils eligene. Sometimes they diverge. And what is your judgment of humanity? Ilara asked, suddenly feeling the weight of representing her entire species. The beast's form expanded, engulfing the starfield around them. For a moment, Ilara felt its consciousness merge with hers, ancient beyond imagination, yet vibrant with curiosity. In that merging, she experienced the loneliness of Stalcon's existence, standing eternal watch at the boundaries of reality. You are chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous, and necessary. The statement came with understanding. The universe required chaos to prevent stagnation, needed unpredictability to evolve. The Council's ordered approach preserved civilization, but without the occasional disruption of species like humanity, the cosmic balance would ultimately fail. So we passed the trial. Ilara asked. There was never a trial as the Council understands it. Me rely on union. Understanding. Zelkon's form contracted, condensing into something almost comprehensible, a being of living mathematics, equations made manifest. IYLRE 2RNU with NINOWLEG. The Council world READTS as AP player avail. Use the opportunity wisely. What knowledge? The forgotten history of your kind. The patterns that connect all COMS, CIOUs as an ESS, and THIS, a sequence of mathematical formulae flooded Ilara's mind. Equations describing space-time in ways human science had not yet conceived. She understood instinctively that these equations would revolutionize space travel, allowing humanity to move through the galaxy without the Council's controlled pathways. Balance, or EQBIREs, both order and chaos, ELARIREID. The Council provides one. Humanity may provide the other. The starfield began to spin around them, faster and faster, the equations in Ilara's mind synchronizing with the movement until reality itself seemed to fold inward. Remember, Ilara gasped as consciousness returned. She found herself lying on the floor of the communion chamber, Ambassador Zivran, and several council elders standing over her with expressions of concern. Beyond them stood Carix, his skin pulsing with patterns of deep indigo. Worry. 7 days, Zivran said, helping her to sit up. You remained in communion for 7 days. Ilara blinked, trying to reorient herself. The knowledge Exal Khan had imparted remained, though now ordered and compartmentalized in her mind, accessible without overwhelming her. Did I pass? She asked, playing along with what she now knew was the Council's limited understanding of Sal Khan's purpose. The Council elders exchanged glances. You returned, one said, with your mind intact. Only those worthy of communion achieve this. Carix approached, offering her water. What did you see? He asked quietly. Ilara took a careful sip before answering. Understanding, she said simply, knowing she could not yet share the full truth of what she had learned, that the Council's careful order was just one half of a cosmic balance, and that humanity's chaotic innovation was the necessary counterweight. In the days that followed, as the Eternal Seeker journeyed back to Terra Nova, Ilara carefully recorded the mathematical equations Hal Khan had shared, disguising them as theoretical exercises rather than the revolutionary formulations they truly were. By the time she returned to her parents, who wept with relief at seeing her alive, she had prepared a sanitized version of her experience to share with the Council and humanity's leaders. The official record would state that Ilara Reed had successfully communed with the ancient entity known as Sal Khan, proving humanity's worthiness for accelerated membership in the Galactic Council. The unofficial truth that humanity represented necessary chaos in a galaxy over-ordered by the Council's influence would remain known only to Ilara. 6 months later, as she stood in the newly established Interspecies Academy on Terra Nova, Ilara watched the first prototype drive, built on Sal Khan's equations, undergo successful testing. Within a year, humanity would have independent access to the stars, no longer bound by the Council's careful restrictions. Balance requires both order and chaos, she whispered to herself, echoing the ancient entity's wisdom as the prototype drive created a perfect fold in space-time, a human innovation that would quietly change the galaxy forever. On the opposite side of reality, in the space between dimensions, Sal Khan observed the ripples of change spreading from humanity's corner of the galaxy. The cosmic balance shifted slightly, order giving way to necessary chaos, as it had countless times before and would countless times again. The beast of solitude was satisfied.